Acadiana. You're tuned in to Local News Live, a production of AOC Community Media in partnership with the Acadiana Advocate. And the Advocate organization at large is a source of local journalism here in Louisiana. And of course, the Acadiana Advocate provides coverage of our local Acadiana area. We also could not bring you the news without the generous support and volunteerism of our news readers like Danon, who's joining us today. In spite of some big things going on with her, she's got a lot going on right now, but she has graced us with her presence and will read the news for us this morning. Good morning, Danon, and thank you.
Well, good morning, Matt. I think that if my problems are a small part of what's going on in this world, so
well, and they're all part of good things.
Count your blessings, you know.
They're all part of good changes in your life. So I'm going to cut out all this background noise and go listen to the news as you read it on Cypress Street. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Matt. Good morning, Acadiana. It is 9 o'clock on July 15th, 2020. Here's the news for today. 2 sheriffs plan limited enforcement of mask order by Claire Taylor. The sheriffs of Lafayette and Vermilion parishes, in statements released Tuesday, said their enforcement of the governor's statewide mandate ordering everyone visiting businesses to wear face masks will be limited. The mandate, which went into effect Monday, requires anyone in a public building, including businesses, to cover their nose and mouth to reduce the spread of the coronavirus. Governor John Bel Edwards announced the new executive order Saturday. Local governments and law enforcement have been struggling to figure out what their role is, if any, in enforcing the mandate. Previously, Edwards ordered employees of businesses to wear face coverings if they come into contact with customers. That order remains in place. Lafayette Parish Sheriff Mark Garber, in a statement Tuesday, said his offices approached the new face mask order will be to inform and educate the public. We believe enforcement action would only be appropriate in the most extreme circumstances, and such circumstances would also involve the Louisiana State Fire Marshal, as directed by the governor's order, he wrote. Deputies will be involved only to keep the peace when a customer refuses to leave a business after being asked to do so because they refuse to wear a face mask, the release states. The governor's order requires businesses to require customers to wear face masks. If the customer refuses to wear a mask and refuses to leave the business, law enforcement can be called to remove them, and they may be charged with trespassing. If the business repeatedly allows customers inside without masks, the business owner can be cited. Enforcement, Garber's statement reads, lies with the Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness and the State Fire Marshal's Office, according to Section 5 of the proclamation, which also seeks cooperation from other state agencies and political subdivisions. Garber said his deputies will respond to all complaints, urging the business to comply. Repeated violations, he said, will be referred to the Fire Marshal's Office for enforcement. Vermilion Parish Sheriff Mike Couvion has taken a similar position. He wrote in a news release Tuesday that his office was asked by the Fire Marshal's Office to assist it by responding to complaints about non-compliance with the mask mandate. His deputies, if advised a business is not requiring customers to comply, will visit the business and give them a gentle reminder. We will not enforce compliance upon any businesses at this time, Couvion said. Like Garber, Couvion said repeat offenders will be referred to the Fire Marshal's Office. The Sheriff's Office will get further involved only if a customer refuses to leave a business when asked because he will not wear a mask. Bessie backs face mask, other rules for reopening of schools by Will Sentel. Backed by medical experts and education groups, Louisiana's top school board Tuesday approved minimum safety standards for the reopening of public schools that include face mask requirements for students and adults alike. The vote by the State Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, without dissent, endorsed the plan offered by new State Superintendent of Education Cade Brumley, including rules governing school bus limits, indoor gatherings, daily hygiene, and social distancing policies. The plan also says all adults and students in grades 3 through 12 must wear a face mask covering to the greatest extent possible and practical within the local community context. Brumley has said that means face coverings are a must while giving local educators flexibility on the volatile issue. Critics question whether the policy goes far enough. The plan was backed by Dr. Joseph Cantor, Assistant State Medical Director for the Louisiana Department of Health, Dr. Billy Lenars, Chairman of Pediatrics for Ochsner Health System, and Dr. LaRon Finger, Chief Quality Officer for Children's Hospital in New Orleans. These recommendations are based on the best understanding to date of this virus, of how it spreads, and particularly how it might impact a school and classroom setting, Cantor told the board. He said although some of the guidelines are onerous, they will put schools in the best position to avoid closures or absenteeism. Lenars said the policies cover 4 key pillars: environment, hand washing, screening, distancing, and face masks. Finger said he would put the guidelines up against any similar benchmarks in the nation. All three assisted state education officials in putting the guidelines together. We at the department never claimed to be an expert on the virus, Brumley said at the outset of the 4.5-hour meeting. Leaders of the Louisiana School Boards Association, the Louisiana Association of Public Charter Schools, and the Council for a Better Louisiana endorsed the rules. What the doctors have laid out are the things we know well, said Carolyn Romer, Executive Director of the Charter Schools Group. It is more likely we can be a healthy community if we do these things. But Larry Carter, president of the Louisiana Federation of Teachers, and others question whether public schools should reopen at all. The decisions you are making today are literally life and death decisions, he said. Carter said positive cases of the coronavirus need to drop for 14 days in a row before students return to classrooms. Are we ready to open schools, he asked the board. Carter also said Bessie should mandate the use of face masks in public schools without any caveats. Belinda Davis, a board member who lives in Baton Rouge, questioned the wording of the face mask policy, including language that says they are to be worn in a way that is practical within the local community context. Davis noted that leaders of Livingston Parish have shown little enthusiasm for Governor John Bel Edwards' statewide order that masks be worn in public to stem the spread of the virus. That, to me, creates a major level of danger for children and adults in those schools, she said of the Bessie policy. My concern is that giving them an enormous loophole. Is that going to give them an out? Brumley said the state law that requires Bessie to spell out minimum standards is aimed at protecting school districts from coronavirus-related lawsuits. To keep that immunity, districts will have to show they are following the benchmarks backed by the state school board. Brumley said the policy is giving local systems some degree of flexibility in implementation. Others question what happens when a teacher tests positive for the virus and whether students will face 14-day quarantines, and they noted that school systems in other states are delaying classes for months. Joan Hunt, an attorney for the State Department of Education, said local school boards decide when the academic year begins. However, public schools are required to provide a specific number of minutes of instruction per year. Barry Irwin, president of Council for a Better Louisiana, said schools need to resume operations. Our schools are essential services, Irwin said. Communities need it. Families need it. Certainly our kids need it after the disruptions they had in the spring. Classrooms were forced in March amid rising cases of the virus, 9 weeks ahead of schedule, which forced school districts to scramble to offer distance learning and other ways to continue instruction with mixed results. The rules approved Tuesday limit indoor school gatherings to 25 people, including adults, as long as the state remains in phase 2 of the reopening of the state's economy. School buses are limited to 50% of capacity, and students should spread out to greatest extent possible. Students are supposed to maintain 6 feet of distance from one another while in classrooms. The state has about 720,000 public school students attending roughly 1,700 schools, led by 47,799 teachers. Brumley said about 18% of teachers are over the age of 55, according to the 2017-2018 data, the latest available. Local school districts will be required to submit their own plans to the State Department of Education to show they are adhering to the BESI guidelines. Frontline workers can start applying for a $250 check by Mark Ballard. Workers, from bus drivers to garbage collectors to grocery store clerks, people who stayed on the job during the coronavirus pandemic while the rest of the state stayed home, can start applying Wednesday for a $250 hazard pay check. The one-time stipend was approved by the Louisiana legislature last month and signed into law Monday by Governor John Bel Edwards. The checks will be sent in 14 to 21 days after the application is approved by the Louisiana Department of Revenue. Applications will be available online at frontlineworkers.la.gov shortly after midnight. Applications can be mailed or downloaded in printable form or are available by calling 855-307-3893. The form is relatively simple and can be filled out online in a matter of minutes. Applicants should have pay stubs and back statements on hand, said Luke Morris, Assistant Secretary of the Office of Legal Affairs. After the typewritten signature attesting to truthfulness under penalty of perjury and the completed form is submitted, the application will receive a confirmation number. Revenue Secretary Kimberly Robinson noted that the Act 12 rebate authorizes spending only $50 million, which means the payments will go out to about 200,000 workers on a first-come, first-served basis. If more information is necessary, the Revenue Department will write a letter asking for further details, but the applicants won't lose their place in line. Robinson said she wants to mail out the checks within 14 to 21 days after an applicant's approval, but income tax returns also are due Wednesday, and the department's personnel will be busy. An applicant's submissions need to be vetted, sometimes by other agencies. Still, Robinson said she is confident the checks will be issued within the time limit, hopefully. The Revenue Department also will collect statistics from the applications. Nothing personal will be shared, Morris said, but the aggregate numbers will provide the state with its first look of how many people remained on the job during the pandemic. Under Act 12, workers qualify if they make less than $50,000 a year, are Louisiana residents, and worked at least 200 hours between March 22 through May 14, when the state stay-at-home order was in place. They also need to have been employed as of March 11th in a list of jobs deemed essential. Obviously, nurses and cops are included, but so are home health care workers, hospital housekeepers and laundry personnel, firefighters and emergency personnel, convenience store clerks, and home meal deliverers, as well as a host of other jobs in more than 24 employment categories. Independent contractors, self-employed people, and gig workers may be eligible if all of the same eligibility requirements are met. Rebates are generally exempt from seizure by creditors. However, the Revenue Department will reduce a rebate payment for outstanding child support obligations, as reported by the Department of Children and Family Services, or for spousal support obligations. Though Democratic legislators call the $250 rebate the greatest accomplishment in the back-to-back legislative sessions that ended on June 30th, no lawmaker voted against the idea. Democrats had pushed House Bill 70 by Representative Sam Jenkins of Shreveport as a counterpoint to Republican efforts to send $300 million to help small businesses get back on their feet. The money comes out of the state's $1.8 billion allocation from the federal $2 trillion coronavirus aid package. Dreams Foundation hosts support group for moms of special needs. At the beginning of 2020, the Dreams Foundation of Acadiana launched a new program called the Dreams Teams Moms Support Group. Meetings are held on the third Friday of every month, And the next meeting is scheduled for Friday, July 17th at 6:30 p.m. at Jam and Java, located on Virat School Road in Lafayette. Everyone is required to wear a mask and sit 6 feet apart. The support group is open to moms, siblings, caregivers of children or adults with special needs who want to connect with other moms to discuss topics that impact daily living related to caring for a loved one with simple to complex medical conditions such as epilepsy, autism, spina bifida, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and more. The Dreams support group organizers kindly ask that moms attend without their children, spouse, significant other, or caregivers so that they can give all moms attending the opportunity to speak openly about any concerns and questions that they may want to discuss in a comfortable setting away from home. The Mom Support Group is a great avenue for complete strangers to connect over a common bond, raising a child, sibling, or loved one who has special needs, stated Dreams volunteer Paula Duhan Bernard. We welcome all moms and caregivers to attend our next meeting. RSVPs are recommended but not required. The response to the Mom Support Group has been overwhelming, and we are so fortunate to provide this free service to the community. As a matter of fact, we have received inquiries about starting a support group for dads of special needs children and adults. That program is in the works, and we will make that announcement as details become available, stated Dreams Executive Director Danielle Watkins. For more information about the Dreams Support Group for Moms, email dreamsfoundationaca@gmail.com. Officer's resignation rejected by Katie Gagliano. The Opelousas Board of Aldermen on Tuesday voted 5-1 to reject the resignation of Sergeant Tyrone Andrepont, a white Opelousas police officer accused of battering a handcuffed black man in a hospital in October. The rejection opens the door for Opelousas Police Chief Martin McClendon to recommend Andrepont's firing. McClendon informed the board he believes Andrepont's conduct goes beyond suspension and requires termination, saying after the meeting it's clear he has a pattern of abuse. The chief said after viewing video evidence of Andrepont's battery on 21-year-old Jonah Coleman Jr. that the veteran policeman should no longer have the authority of a badge. When I viewed that video, I saw my son in that video. I saw your brother in that video because it could happen to anybody, and that should have never happened, McClendon said. Alderman Charles Cummings of District C was the lone vote against rejecting Andrepont's resignation request. Cummings said after the meeting he voted no because he's concerned if Andrepont appeals termination, he could get back on the force. By voluntarily resigning, Andrepont waives his rights and he would not have an avenue to rejoin the Opelousas Police Department. My cause was to stop everything today, Cummings said. Andrepont submitted his resignation to McClendon, Mayor Julius Alcindor, and the city attorney via email at the end of business June 29th. The 17-year Opelousas police veteran is accused of battering Coleman while Coleman was receiving treatment at Opelousas General Health Center System South Hospital on October 30. Andrepont was booked on 5 counts of malfeasance in office in the case. The board originally moved to terminate Andrepont, but Opelousas City Attorney Travis Broussard interjected and informed the board Andrepont would maintain civil service rights if terminated, and his firing would have to follow a specific process. First, a pre-disciplinary hearing would be held, then a meeting to act on McClendon's recommendation, and finally, Andrepont would have appeal options if terminated. If there's no pre-disciplinary hearing, that would nullify the discipline that's imposed on him, and I don't think anyone wants that, Broussard said. McClendon said he plans to push for an expedited consideration process for Andrepont's termination rather than waiting until the Board of Aldermen's next meeting. The young man involved, Mr. Coleman, obviously deserves some closure. This obviously is a nightmare to him, and I believe his family. I don't speak for them, but I believe they want to see something happen as quickly as possible, the chief said. In the meantime, McClendon said he applied for the Louisiana Commission on Law Enforcement and Administration on Criminal Justice to have Andrepont's peace officer standards and training certification revoked. All Louisiana law enforcement officers are required to maintain post-certification. The biggest concern across the community is that people don't want him to wear a uniform ever again. After his resignation letter, he could have easily applied with another agency. There are a lot of agencies that hire people that leave departments and never call for a reference, McClendon said. Coleman's family and his attorney, Dallas-based civil rights lawyer Darrell K. Washington, had vehemently opposed Andrepont's resignation out of fear it would allow Andrepont to maintain a respectable employment record and find employment as a police officer in a new department. We don't commit a crime, and you don't commit a crime, and you don't commit years of abuse and be given the privilege to just resign and perhaps be eligible to receive your pension. When you commit a bad act, the penalty you suffer is termination, not resignation, Washington said at a July 3rd rally supporting Coleman. The board also voted 6-0 to terminate Andrepont's paid leave effective June 29. He had been on administrative leave with pay since November, when Louisiana State Police launched the initial investigation into the battery allegations. McClendon said he referred the investigation to state police after learning of the incident in a meeting with hospital administrators in mid-November. Descriptions of the battery included in an affidavit filed June 12th said Andrepont struck Coleman in the face at least once, causing his head to snap backwards, and put his right arm around Jonah's neck in a chokehold while Coleman was handcuffed to a hospital bed. Andrepont has been accused of abusive behavior before. In 2011, Opelousas pastor Elton Sam Jr. filed a lawsuit against Andrepont, the Opelousas Police Department, and the city in 2011. Court documents claim Andrepont used excessive force against Sam after accusing the minister of stealing from an area Goodwill in October 2010. The officer is accused of slamming Sam's head onto the hood of his police unit, putting Sam into a chokehold while Sam was handcuffed, and shoving Sam into the door of his patrol car, among other acts. McClendon said after the council meeting that he reported Andrepont once in the past for an incident, but did not elaborate. Rod Bernard, broadcaster and swamp pop musician, dies at 79. Swamp pop musician and broadcaster Rod Bernard died Sunday in New Iberia after short illness. He was 79. Born into a Cajun family of French Catholic heritage in Opelousas, Rodney Ronald Louis Bernard learned to play guitar, sing, and yodel as a child, according to a statement from his family. When he was 10, he joined the Cajun country and western group, the Blue Room Gang, which performed live on KSLO radio in Opelousas. He toured with the ensemble outside Louisiana, visiting the Grand Ole Opera, and it was during this tour, around 1950, that Bernard recorded his first song, Hank Williams's Jambalaya. As a teenager, Bernard and his friends began playing rock and roll, calling themselves Rod Bernard and the Twisters. They recorded a few original songs on the Carl Eabel of Opelousas, and in 1958 covered King Carl and Guitar Gable's song, This Should Go On Forever. Issued on the new gin label of Ville Platte, Bernard's version of the swamp pop ballad became popular along the Gulf Coast. In response to its growing sales, Gin soon licensed the track of the Chess label of Chicago, which, with its sister labels Checker and Argo, handled artists such as Bo Diddley, Muddy Waters, and Clarence Frogman Henry. On Argo, Bernard's recording hit nationally, propelling the Louisiana teen onto Alan Freed's rock and roll show, Dick Clark's American Bandstand, and concerts and tours with Chuck Berry, Jerry Lee Lewis, B.B. King, Dwayne Eddy, Roy Orbison, and Frankie Avalon, among others. Bernard would go on to release many regional hits that became swamp pop classics, including Congratulations to You, Darling, Forgive, Loneliness, Fado Do, and his own bilingual version of the Cajun classic Colinda. In 1976, he teamed up with fellow Opelousas native and Zydeco legend Clifton Chenier to record the album Boogie in Black and White, for its time a groundbreaking biracial collaboration. He performed at various times with other swamp pop musicians, including Warren Storm and Skip Stewart. In addition to his music career, Bernard worked in radio and television his entire life. He landed his first radio program on KSLO around age 10, and for many years in the 1960s, he DJ'd, sold airtime, and served as a program director at KVOL radio in Lafayette. Around 1970, Bernard switched to a career in television, and for nearly 30 years worked as an advertising executive and on-air talent for Lafayette's KLFY TV 10. For decades, he appeared in television commercials and often guest hosted the channel's long popular Passepartout and Meet Your Neighbor programs. He retired in 2018 for the Acadiana Broadcasting Group. Bernard proudly served in the U.S. Marine Corps Reserve from 62 to 68, attaining the rank of sergeant. He was later active in the Lafayette Area Marine Corps League until declining health prevented him from doing so. His family asked that donations be made to the U.S. Marine Toys for Tots campaign at toysfortots.org. At his request, no funeral will be observed. Bernard was preceded in death by his parents and is survived by his wife of 55 years, Joanne King, originally of Magnolia, Mississippi, and a longtime resident of Lafayette, now residing in New Iberia. He is also survived by his brother Oscar Bernard of Scott, his children Shane K. Bernard of New Iberia and Shannon Vernon Borg of Metairie, 3 grandchildren, Colette A. Bernard and Alexandra T. Bernard of Lafayette, and Ella G. Borg of Metairie, his daughter-in-law Amy Lancon Bernard of New Iberia, and his son-in-law Rusty Borg of Metairie. Inmate found dead in St. Martin Parish Jail. The St. Martin Parish Coroner's Office and the U.S. Marshals Service are investigating the death of an inmate in the custody of the Parish Sheriff's Office. Shortly after 6 p.m. Sunday, while correctional officers with the Sheriff's Office were performing their rounds, they discovered a male inmate unresponsive in his bunk, according to a statement issued Monday by the Sheriff's Department. Life-saving efforts were immediately initiated by corrections personnel and continued until the arrival of a Acadian ambulance. The inmate was subsequently transported to a local hospital where he was pronounced dead. The official cause of death is pending the results of an autopsy. A St. Martinville woman has died of injuries she suffered in an all-terrain vehicle crash this weekend. Deputies were called to Verdun Lane in Verdunville at about 8 p.m. Saturday, where they found 2 injured women. A Franklin woman was driving the ATV, and Lakeitha Hopes, 31 years old, was the passenger. The ATV left the road for unknown reasons, hit a concrete culvert, and flipped. Both women were ejected. Both women were airlifted to a Lafayette hospital, where Hopes later died. The crash remains under investigation. No charges have been filed at this time, and standard toxicology test results are pending. Louisiana State Police, Centerville Fire Department, and Acadian Ambulance responded to the scene. Camp Unique Dreams Foundation. Every summer, the Dreams Foundation of Acadiana hosts the greatest camp of all, Camp Unique. Camp Unique is suited for individuals with special needs. Camp Unique will be held July 13th through 17 for ages 5 through 13, and July 20 through 24 for ages 14 and up. A fee of $75 is required, and the theme this year is Peace and Love. All Camp Unique sessions will be held at Lark's Acadian Village. Individuals of all ages have a blast participating in a camp that is specifically tailored to them. They get the opportunity to take part in activities such as art, fitness, karaoke, music, and dance, as well as getting a Camp Unique t-shirt and a snack every day. A highlight of Camp Unique this year will be the storytelling session of Chief Greyhawk Perkins, commented Dreams Foundation Executive Director Danielle Watkins. As a recognized expert on Native American and American colonial history, Perkins has inspired many audiences over the years, sharing tales of ancient cultures as a tribal storyteller and as a teacher of various subjects in Louisiana's school system. The registration form for Camp Unique can be found on the Dreams Foundation of Acadiana website, and that would be dreamsfoundationaca.org. Volunteers are also being sought at this time. If you're interested in volunteering, please complete the application on the Dreams website under the Volunteer tab. For more information about Camp Unique, contact Danielle Watkins via email at Danielle@dreamsfoundationaca.org. That would be DONIELLE at dreamsfoundationaca.org. Or you can just call 337-962-1609. Pence uses visit to LSU to push reopening schools, by Sam Carlin and Jeff Adelson. Vice President Mike Pence on Tuesday traveled to Louisiana, a state struggling to get a grip on spiking infections and hospitalizations, and urged the reopening of K-12 schools and colleges for in-person instruction. At a gathering inside LSU's Tiger Stadium, where he was seated between LSU football coach Ed Orgeron and Governor John Bel Edwards, Pence acknowledged that although rising cases across the South are serious, the nation's schools should reopen on time. Getting our kids back into schools is the right thing to do academically, but it's also the right thing to do for our children, Pence said. U.S. Education Secretary Betsy DeVos added that it can't be a question of if schools reopen, it's how we can do it safely. The Trump administration offered few specifics during the visit on how it envisioned schools reopening safely, though DeVos said it should involve precautions like wearing masks, social distancing, and practicing good hygiene. Meanwhile, the State Board of Elementary and Secondary Education was hashing out details for how reopening may work in Louisiana, and one popular approach is to have younger students return to classrooms while older students rely on distance learning. Pence's visit came as Louisiana experiences a surge in coronavirus cases and hospitalizations, so worrying to officials that Edwards, a Democrat friendly with the Trump administration last weekend, mandated masks statewide and shut down bars. That decision came amid a reopening that started in mid-May after Louisiana successfully tamped down the number of cases following some of the fastest case growth in the world. The mask mandate has invited pushback, and a group of Republican lawmakers are continuing to gain momentum for a petition to end all coronavirus restrictions in the state. Pence took a different tack, offering up support for Edwards' decisions to close bars and mandate masks. He said people should heed the advice of health officials, and he said it's always a good idea to wear a mask. Pence said people should wear a mask whenever state and local authorities say it's indicated or whenever social distancing is not possible. Officials in the state's health department expect the mask mandate will help slow the spread of the virus, but cases and hospitalizations are expected to continue rising for some time because of lags between when someone is affected and when they test positive and potentially end up at a hospital. Tuesday saw the continuation of worrying trends that started in mid-June, when cases across the state began to rise as new infections from the state's phase 2 reopening rolled in. The health department confirmed 2,215 more cases, 21 additional deaths, and 54 more hospitalized patients who had tested positive for COVID-19. The Lafayette area has seen 1,620 more cases in the past 7 days than it reported 2 weeks ago, more than doubling the number it reports each day on average. Newly reported cases are 2.7 times in the Lake Charles area what they were 2 weeks ago, with 1,495 cases reported in the past 7 days. On the North Shore of Lake Pontchartrain, parishes have seen their numbers increase at a similar rate, with the 1,527 cases reported in the past 7 days, representing an increase of nearly 931 cases more than in the week ending June 30th. Even New Orleans, which kept restrictions in place longer than the rest of the state and had seen its numbers stay relatively low for longer than other areas, has seen dramatic increases. The 640 cases reported in the city over the past 7 days are nearly 2.3 times the number reported 2 weeks ago. Over the past week, New Orleans has reported an average of more than 90 cases a day, almost twice the 50 per day average that city officials had been aiming to stay below. The weekly positivity rate, the share of total tests that produce positive results, has more than doubled from where it was a month ago, indicating that the rapid rise in cases is not the result of increased testing. Perhaps the most worrying statistics on Tuesday were the continued climb in hospitalized patients who have tested positive for the coronavirus and the dwindling number of resources to care for both them and those suffering from other injuries or ailments in some areas of the state. The 1,362 hospitalized patients with COVID-19 is the highest the state has seen since May 7th, when hospitalizations were on a slow decline from their peak in mid-April. Beyond the raw totals, which point to an increasing number of seriously ill patients, there are signs the spread of the virus is beginning to tax hospital resources across the state. Hospitals in southwestern Louisiana reported they had only 10 out of 86 intensive care unit beds available on Tuesday. Only one region, the Lafayette area, has reported so few beds available for patients in need of critical care since the start of the pandemic. The Lafayette and Shreveport regions are also reported having fewer than 20% of their ICUs free on Tuesday, even though both dramatically increased the number of intensive care beds earlier in the pandemic. Without those increases, about 175 patients across those two regions suffering from either COVID-19 or other life-threatening conditions would not have had the resources they needed. Pence called the coronavirus trends across the South serious, but said the country is in a better position to address it now than in the spring because of the new treatments like remdesivir, better access to testing, and more personal protective equipment. He also said he was confident Louisiana would flatten the curve again, just like it did in April, while reopening. When Louisiana tapped down infections dramatically in the spring, it was after Edwards issued a stay-at-home order that instructed most people to stay home unless running essential tasks. Schools have also been closed to in-person instruction since March. The state's top school board Tuesday was grappling with one of the key concerns of reopening: minimum safety standards for students and teachers, including how strict the panel wants to be on face mask requirements. Some districts begin the new school year on August 6th. About 720,000 students attend the state's roughly 1,700 public schools. Orgeron won a round of applause from Pence after saying, "We need football this fall." "We need to play," Orgeron said. "Our state needs it and our country needs it." Orgeron confirmed that a number of players tested positive for the virus since returning to LSU this summer, though he did not say how many. Louisiana AG Landry tests positive for coronavirus, by Mark Ballard. Louisiana Attorney General Jeff Landry wasn't on the tarmac to greet Vice President Mike Pence on Tuesday morning because he has tested positive for the coronavirus, according to an email blast to employees of the State Department of Justice. "Out of an abundance of caution with the Vice President coming to our state, I was tested for coronavirus," Landry wrote in the Tuesday morning email. "Though experiencing no symptoms, I test positive for COVID-19. Landry wrote to employees that he is quarantining, taking medications, and remains asymptomatic. He contacted staffers with whom he was in contact. "My work as Attorney General has been uninterrupted, and I will continue my efforts to protect Louisiana families, freedom, and the rule of law," Landry wrote. Landry made no other public comments concerning his condition, but Landry tweeted Tuesday afternoon that he planned to issue Wednesday morning an opinion of Governor John Bel Edwards' latest directive closing bars, limiting crowds to no more than 50 people at an inside facility, and requiring every person to wear a face mask in public. Landry is the third high-ranking state official known to have tested positive. State Department of Transportation and Development Secretary Sean Wilson and Senate President Paige Cortez, both of whom live in Lafayette, caught the virus, were treated, and moved on afterward. One of Edwards' top aides died from COVID-19, and another recently tested positive, leading to a number of staffers self-isolating and thereby slowing down the governor's signing or vetoing bills passed by legislatures last month. A staffer for State Treasurer John Schroeder also tested positive. Baton Rouge State Representative Ted James, a Democrat, was hospitalized but recovered. Other legislators came down with flu-like symptoms but didn't get tested. And State Representative Reggie Bagala, a Republican from Cutoff, died from COVID-19. His replacement in Louisiana House, Republican Joseph Orgeron of Golden Meadow, was elected Saturday. Landry has been one of the more vocal opponents to various directives aimed at slowing the spread of the highly contagious virus, whose victims are filling up hospitals. Last week, Landry urged the state's top school board to avoid mandating the use of face masks by students and teachers when schools reopen next month. We believe that mandating students to wear masks creates a situation that may cross the line on liberty and also may become a tremendous distraction with enforcement, Landry said in his July 9 letter to State Education Superintendent Cade Brumley. Landry wrote he is concerned that requiring masks would turn teachers and school administrators into mask enforcement police rather than educators. On June 5, Landry opined in a letter to State Fire Marshal Butch Browning that the Phase 2 ban on live music at clubs and other small venues could violate the state constitution. The state fire marshal's guidance initially said indoor live entertainment was not authorized, with exceptions for disc jockeys and music played on a speaker system. The agency was charged with enforcing the reopening guidelines. Landry, who lives in the Lafayette suburb of Broussard, wrote the letter at the request of Lafayette Parish Mayor President Josh Guillory. Since then, Acadiana has seen a spike in positive coronavirus tests. Louisiana Company pitches in for Navy by Ellen Couvion. When the U.S. Navy needed help putting out a major fire on a ship in California, one of the companies it called on was Holden-based U.S. Fire Pump. About 8:30 a.m. Sunday, a fire broke out on an amphibious assault ship, the USS Bonhomme Richard. Rear Admiral Philip Sobeck, commander of Expeditionary Strike Group 3, said about 160 people were on board. There had been no fatalities, according to local news reports, but more than 30 sailors and 20 civilians have been treated for minor injuries, mostly from fighting the fire. Firefighters were still working to put out the blaze as of Tuesday afternoon. On Monday night in Louisiana at a warehouse off Antioch Road in Baton Rouge, U.S. Fire Pump Company workers loaded up 4 18-wheelers headed out for San Diego with fire suppression equipment, said Johnny Carroll, a manager with the company. The equipment includes a high-volume fire pump, submersible pumps, and more than 10,000 feet of firefighting hose. 12 industrial specialists from U.S. Fire Pump were expected to get to San Diego via charter plane late Monday night, Carroll said. The 18-wheelers were expected to get there in less than 24 hours. The Holden Company was contacted by the U.S. Navy on Monday. U.S. Fire Pump is a global emergency response and equipment company founded by Chris Ferrara, formerly of Ferrara Fire Apparatus, also in Holden. In a news release, Ferrara said his company has helped to respond to major incidents over the past few weeks, like petrochemical plant fires, terminal fires, and ship fires. The USS Bonhomme Richard is a WASP-class amphibious assault ship, which functions like a small aircraft carrier, according to a Navy fact sheet. At 855 feet long, it is capable of launching both helicopters and landing craft. The ship has been deployed all over the world, including a support role in Operation Iraqi Freedom and in humanitarian efforts following the 2005 tsunami in the Indian Ocean. AOC teams up with the United Way of Acadiana for Learn United. The United Way of Acadiana has teamed up with AOC and other local educational groups for Learn United, bridging the digital gap to provide educational resources for households that don't have internet but do have a television. The Learn United programs air weekdays from 8 to 2 on AOC 2, Cox 16, LUS 4, and streaming at aocinc.org/watch. For the daily schedules and to submit content for the program, visit the United Way of Acadiana website, unitedwayofacadiana.org/learn-united. We have deaths. I'm going to read the deaths for today. Funerals that are for today. In the Acadiana area, Sharon Benoit, St. John the Baptist Catholic Church in Crowley at 11 a.m. Zhang Chu, Fountain Memorial Funeral Home in Lafayette at 11 a.m. Virgie Richard, Our Lady of Lourdes Catholic Church at 1 p.m. Today in history, today is Wednesday, July 15th, the 197th day of 2020. There are 169 days left in this year. Today's highlight in history. On July the 15th, 1799, French soldiers in Egypt discovered the Rosetta Stone, which proved instrumental in deciphering ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. On this day, in 1834, the Spanish Inquisition was abolished more than 3.5 centuries after its creation. In 1870, Georgia became the last Confederate state to be readmitted to the Union. Manitoba entered Confederation as the 5th Canadian province. In 1918, the Second Battle of the Marne, resulting in an Allied victory, began during World War I. In 1975, 3 American astronauts blasted off aboard an Apollo spaceship hours after 2 Soviet cosmonauts were launched aboard a Soyuz spacecraft for a mission that included a link-up of the 2 ships in orbit. In 1985, a visibly gaunt Rock Hudson appeared at a news conference with actress Doris Day. It was later revealed Hudson was suffering from AIDS. In 1996, MSNBC, a 24-hour all-news network, made its debut on cable and the internet. In 1997, fashion designer Gianni Versace, 50 years old, was shot dead outside his Miami Beach home. Suspected gunman Andrew Philip Cunin, 27 years old, was found dead 8 days later of suicide. Investigators believe Cunin killed 4 other people before Versace in a cross-country rampage that began the previous March. 10 years ago, after 85 days, BP stopped the flow of oil into the Gulf of Mexico using a 75-ton cap lowered onto the well earlier in the week. The Security and Exchange Commission announced that Goldman Sachs and Company would pay a record $550 million in penalties to settle charges that the Wall Street giant had misled buyers of mortgage investments. A year ago, avowed white supremacist James Alex Fields Jr. was sentenced to life in prison plus 419 years for killing one and injuring dozens of others when he deliberately drove his car into a crowd of anti-racism protesters during a rally in Charlottesville, Virginia. Despite widespread criticism over a weekend tweet, President Donald Trump renewed his call for 4 Democratic congresswomen of color to get out of the U.S. right now. Okay, today's birthdays. Linda Ronstadt is 74 years old. Rock musician Artemis Pyle is 72. Ariana Huffington, co-founder of the Huffington Post, is 70. Sorry, I'm going through the list here. Actor, director Forrest Whitaker is 49. Actress Bridget Nielsen is 57. Rock musician Jason Boham is 54. Rhythm and blues singer Stokely, mint condition, is 53. And that's all for the birthdays. Okay, we are now going to move to the horoscope for today, starting with Cancer. Here's your horoscope for July 15th. Cancer, be the one to make a difference. Expand your interest, knowledge, and insight, and you'll realize what's possible. Trust your instincts and make things happen. Leo, if you don't understand the extent of a job, work-related problems will surface. Be direct, initiate proper protocol, and follow steps and examples explicitly. Virgo, don't risk your health or position. Keep your objective firmly planted in your mind and don't stop until you reach your destination. An emotional shift will be required. Libra, avoid joint ventures or risky investments. Too much of anything will work against you. Live within your means and avoid indulgent individuals. Love who you are and treat yourself well. Scorpio, call on your emotions for an honest appraisal of a situation. A change at home may be possible, and with initiative and imagination, you'll be surprised by the results. Sagittarius, refuse to let anyone you encounter add to your stress. Keep meddlers at a safe distance. Put your efforts into physical and emotional improvement. Personal growth will lead to greater self-appreciation. Capricorn, change your image, take a different path, or fine-tune your plans to eliminate an error. Be the mastermind of your efforts and be original, passionate, and truthful. You will excel. Aquarius, fix what you have instead of opting for a replacement. Use your hands to put your ideas in motion and reward yourself for self-control and discipline. Pisces, think about your concerns and do some research. The information you receive will help you care for yourself and look after your interests more efficiently. Don't let love cost you financial or emotionally. Aries, keep tabs on your expenses. Too much of anything will result in loss and regret. If something needs an adjustment, do it yourself. Be responsible and reap the rewards. Taurus, a demonstration of emotions will impact the way others view you. Strive to make your point passionately without being dramatic or overbearing, and you'll get results. Gemini, sit back, relax, and refuse to make a hasty decision. Time is on your side, and you'll gain far more if you meditate or strive for personal growth. That's your horoscope for today. And remember, it's an entertainment feature and not based on scientific fact. So if you're feeling overwhelmed with stress, fear, and anxiety about the uncertainties surrounding this public health emergency, there is a special Keeping Calm Through COVID hotline you can call. This connects you to trained, compassionate counselors who can offer support and who can direct you to mental health and substance abuse counseling services. Trained counselors are available 24/7 and all calls are confidential. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, call 866-310-7977. That would be 866-310-7977. Also, if you've lost your job or if you've reduced hours, you may be eligible for Medicaid. You can apply online at mymedicaid.la.gov. You can also apply by phone by calling 888-342-6207 or by mail by sending information to Louisiana Medicaid Post Office Box 91283, Baton Rouge, Louisiana 70821. Local Medicaid offices are currently closed to the public, but if additional assistance is needed, you can call 888-342-6207. Stop the spread, call instead. For the latest COVID-19 updates and information, visit www.311lafayette.services. Call centers with volunteers and medical professionals are active 24/7 to answer your questions about COVID-19 and determine if you need to get screened. You may also call 311 and press option 2 if you are a business owner, employee, or looking for a job to get information about applying for small business recovery loans, apply for unemployment benefits, and related programs. Individuals whose hours are being reduced at work or who have been laid off for employment may qualify for unemployment insurance benefits. If you're attempting to apply for unemployment insurance and are not able to access an existing online account or need help resetting your password, call Lafayette's Acadiana Workforce Solutions office at 337-262-5601. Due to high call volume, some calls may not be answered immediately. Call again at a later time or contact one of Louisiana's other local offices for assistance. So you could call laworks.net/downloads. In addition to unemployment insurance benefits, individuals looking for supplemental income can consider local employment opportunities with businesses who are seeking temporary, part-time, and full-time workers by visiting the COVID-19 Help Wanted resource page at lafayette.org/help wanted or LEDA's virtual job fair page with local businesses seeking to hire local candidates for full-time employment opportunities at lafayette.org/jobs. Well, that's all we have for you today. It is July 15th, 2020. Please be safe out there. Wear those masks. Doesn't take too much time to do that. And I'm glad they're mandating a little more use of it. I think it's good for all of us. So please be safe and have a good one.